So hello, my name is Casper. Today I'm going to be discussing the global individual name search and compensation assumption engine. So what is this and what's the point? So my business partner and I, we've been trying to determine what is the most important mode of execution. So we've been trying to itemize the actual core need and necessity to get people work and to get people paid. And one of the most important things is actually discernment. Discernment of competence and discernment of identity. And tied to that, you could also attach the discernment of value, cost. I would actually say cost. So the aggregation of all interperson commerce sounds ambitious, though it's very basic. And surprised why it doesn't exist. I've religiously listened to a weekly video called This Week in Startups. It's based out of Silicon Valley. I've probably heard thousands of hours of actual founders discussing ideas that are avant-garde, creative, and pitches from other startups. I mean, whatever you would consider creative, it isn't at the level of what comes out of Silicon Valley in regards to pitches and ideas. It's just out of this world. And consistently, day by day, you can just be blown away by those massive ideas. Now, I'm not sure if simplification is creativity, but running a job app for a certain period of time, I found from my own personal displeasure from looking for jobs because for some reason, maybe I'm unhireable. I'm not a very... Maybe I am, I don't know. Maybe I'm not a very high-value content. Maybe that's me being insecure. Maybe I have a low self-esteem, I'm not sure. But maybe a disgust and repulsion of actually how job search actually functions. People of competence are not getting the jobs they deserve. And employers are not getting the workers they deserve. Many people whom are pitching businesses would claim these industries and markets to be broken. I would not say that it's broken. I would just simply say that things can always improve. Now, this is not incrementalization, which I'm discussing with this product. This is a complete different assumption of how interperson commerce, and interperson does not necessarily mean humanoids. You can actually mean businesses as well, corporations, right? So it's a little complex to speak in just, macro common nouns. Though I would like to assume that you're catching my drift. Okay? So with every presentation that I've given, I find myself becoming more more competent. And I've actually discerned the failures of my own software and my own vision of a previous project and my naivete of what actually has been produced, and the guilt that I've asked my business partner to actually execute on tasks that may in fact be inefficient to that individual's time. And I feel, why was I not smart enough to see that? And I find I have a certain displeasure from doing that, and because I myself am so efficiency orientated, I am a person whom is focused on efficiency of execution. I am seriously concerned that about other people's personal time, and I don't think it's fair. So this is kind of like a I can do better video as well. And this is why I am so determined to actually get this project on the road. There are a lot of segments that I've produced, none of which is, in my mind, superior to this one. This is the best, I wouldn't say idea, maybe it's an idea. Process? No, that's not the right word. Concept of getting people to execute the processes of interperson commerce. So the number one problem for delegating tasks is the actual process required to economically delegate it. So if you are a person of certain rank in compensation, your time is valuable. When you go to seek somebody to actually ask them to do it, in some sense, it's actually a point of education, that you are dedicating your own resources, which is thus your time, to this individual for them to repeatedly execute the process. It's very rare that when you do this, that initially the execution could be superior that of which is your own. So the discernment of figuring out whom can do it economically and the risk that which entails to you or your company's bottom line. So is it economic to execute on this delegation, or are we wasting our time, money, and resources? So efficient processes are required for the effective delegation without sacrificing the economic time of actually attaining this competency. So I'm going to read this again because I wrote this previously, and let's focus on what I've actually written here. Efficient processes are required for the effective delegation. Are required for basically this means if you are, I'm basically repeating myself, if you are spending too much time in delegating down competency, you are wasting your company's resources. And that's not a very good business practice. Any time in which you are delegating, you should be maximizing efficiency and compounding the yield of what that time executes. So if you are spending one unit of time, you should immediately be rewarded with 2 units of time. If you are spending 1 unit of money, you should be getting a yield of 2 units of money. Of course, it will be less. I mean, could you imagine if anytime you execute on something, you get double? Wow, that'd be a great business. I'd like to repeat that as much as possible. Okay, I think anybody would agree with me. But it should be that easy. And the following slide will actually go into this in more detail. We should be focused on this type of arbitrage, because finding that which is of value at a lower price point is basically that of which makes us human. We cannot expend more energy for less result. There is a reason why a single farmer can take care of, 100 hectares, or 4 square, I think they're called. Each square is like 100 hectares, I forget. Right. A square of land. So a single farmer can take care of 4 square of land, in which that used to take like a few, maybe 1,000 farmers or something to effectively grow crops from. So you need 1,000th the individual, because there's machinery involved. There's more technology, fossil fuels, which maximizes the productive output of a single individual. And there are costs associated with that, but I'll tell you what, a barrel of diesel fuel is a lot less money than paying an individual, especially if you're in a rural area in a first-tier country. The number one issue of all people needing to meet each other. There's a typo there. The number one issue of all people needing to meet each other is the issue of not being known, or the obscurity of the potential, or the failure of being indexed in a public forum so services and companies are available to be searched. That's a run-on sentence. The grammar's poor. If you don't know that which is available to you, you're blind to the potential of that which could lie before you, if you knew, and so you did have the ability to search for it. If you cannot search for that something which exists, then in some way, does it exist? And of course it does. But if a tree falls down in the forest, has it really fallen down? I don't know, that's some kind of deep philosophical discussion, or Plato's shadow in the cave. But economically speaking, it's basic. If you don't have access to that information, you cannot execute on that information unless you are a creative savant, and you can yield compounding abstractions, and do so economically with the foresight and intuition that they have the actual properties to which they can exist in your market segment or in your environment. No, talk about difficult. So I think what is the average person cannot. The average person can't see more than 3 chess moves ahead, right? Even if they do deep practice, it's more of an intuitive sense of the board, the chess board. But to actually make the decision tree, to be able to discern that which can and does exist, is almost impossible. And there is an actual mathematical challenge. I think it's the traveling salesman challenge. If there are more than 14 cities, so 14 nodes to which a salesman has to reach, the potential of calculations makes it so. I think this was discussed by Travis Kalanick on the mathematics for Uber, like way back when. This is like when he was speaking like 10 years ago. He was talking about this issue. No computer today can actually determine, after 14 nodes, okay, so 14 points and the variations thereof, because there's just too much data. There's too many options. And talking about overheating a server, well, there you go. So you have to consider it almost as subroutines. Competencies are subroutines, and you make the assumptive analysis that you can discern this aggregation within a single individual, because a single individual is an AI. They are a subroutine in some sense, because they can repeatedly execute on a competency in an accurate and precise manner. Hopefully, right? Hopefully. The numeric valuation cross-currency difficulty makes it excessively challenging for people to discern the value of labor. An automated engine is to the benefit of all parties, so a basic sum can be negotiated from. Correct. Human beings are, what was it? How did Elon Musk describe us? He described us as 256-bit input and 1-bit output. So we can't speak or type. Thinking is a different thing, but we can't literally get our needs and demands out efficiently enough. And so that's why we've created machines, for that to be done for us. So there's the challenge of language. Okay? How do we even communicate with another person? This is not speaking down about the actual human being, but let's consider them a competency as you need a certain process done, a competency. It's subroutine. How do you get that if you can't even negotiate, or you can't discuss what your needs are to that subroutine? It's impossible. There's a language. Even if you know it exists, how do you pay this? How do you pay this subroutine or this competency or this person? It's impossible. Well, it's not, I shouldn't say it's impossible, but it's the willpower required to get it done is beyond the scope of the typical person. It would be infuriating on both parties. How do they communicate effectively? And how do you even discern if that's what you need? Do you know? What do you know that you need? Are you so wise that if you have a business, you know exactly what your business needs at any point? Are you a 6 Sigma person that you make 6 errors per million? Yeah, right. And maybe you are, I don't know. But 6 errors per million? You know, I'm just looking at the harbor. It's so beautiful. You know, sun's going down. I have another meeting tonight. And it's just so fascinating. You know, there's so many people out there doing so many different tasks and responsibilities, and we all interact. We all delegate our services to that of which other people are competent, or they have the actual mechanization to actually get done. Like there's towboats tugging a barge. You know? Do you know how to use a tugboat? Anyways. But you know what I'm getting at. So to get started, even though it may be imprecise, is a step in the right direction. If there's a price point that people can negotiate from, we're all moving in the right direction, right? This is a little bit too much. Oh, that's too little. Or that's way too little. But at least there's something to discuss from, right? Oh, I found that there was value in this. So at this compensation. Oh no, I disagree. I need at least this. See? Discussion is made. The majority of all business and commerce is that of arbitrage, where one party seeks greater value from what is traded. This is the basic exchange of competency. I do a lot of business in China. In my experience, a lot of factories are way more competent than their Western counterparts because they've had to repeatedly execute on those tasks, and they've done it efficiently. It doesn't matter if the cost is lower. It's that I can actually attain greater value by seeking that which is of greater competency. It's greater competency at a lower cost. If I could get a superior competency at a higher price, meaning I can get a better product, then of course I will source locally. But that's not how the world functions. We are all seeking the appropriate valuation for a service or product or exchange. Otherwise, we are sacrificing our own resources to the benefit of another person. So we have there's a negative net effect. What's the point? Right? You're wasting your resources and your previous effort and time. So it all comes down to that which is exchanged. So what is a name then from a way to identify an individual? Again, the grammar. An individual. Why do we have different names? Why do we have different faces? Why can a human being... I saw this BBC, maybe it was BBC or Discovery Channel, documentary where a human being can recognize a face before that of anything else. And we can store up to 100,000 faces with photographic memory. It's absolutely fascinating. So what is a name? What is a face? From a way to identify an individual. The indexation of that will really help maximize the productive output of the individual by seeking the competency of others for the mutual and beneficial exchange. Okay? So info at opportunity.to. I really look forward to discussing with you about this and our services. This is the last call. We can't be offering this much longer because we are going to be making it a public service. So again, info at opportunity.to. My name is Casper. I really look forward to helping you find a job, get a better job, and increase the productive output of whatever business you are doing. We can help. Info at opportunity.to. Thank you very much. Take care.